The Forgotten Day. Chapter 1. On October 13th, 2019, the entire population of Millbrook, Vermont, all 2,847 residents, called in sick to work, didn't answer their phones, and according to traffic cameras, never left their homes until the following morning when they emerged with no memory of the previous day, leading federal investigators to classify it as the most comprehensive case of mass amnesia in recorded history. Detective Sarah Chen had seen her share of cold cases, but nothing quite like the Millbrook file that landed on her desk 3 years later. The manila folder contained witness statements that read like fiction, security footage with 18-hour gaps, and medical reports documenting a phenomenon that shouldn't exist. According to the FBI's preliminary investigation, every single resident of the small Vermont town had experienced identical memory loss spanning exactly 24 hours. Mass hysteria, the bureau psychologist had concluded, probably triggered by environmental contamination or shared psychological trauma. But mass hysteria didn't explain why every clock in town had stopped at 11:47 p.m. on October 12th, only to resume precisely 24 hours later. It didn't account for the fact that not a single resident had aged during those missing hours, despite biological evidence suggesting their bodies had continued functioning normally. And it certainly didn't explain why the same thing had happened again on October 13th, 2020, and again in 2021. Sarah flipped through crime scene photographs showing abandoned meals on dinner tables, cars parked perfectly in driveways with engines still running, children's toys scattered on lawns as if their young owners had simply vanished mid-play. The images carried an eerie quality, like snapshots from a ghost town that somehow still buzzed with life. The most unsettling detail came from the final page of the report, a handwritten note added by Agent Mills, who had led the original investigation. Residents claim they dreamed during the lost day. Same dream. Every year. They won't say what they see. Sarah's phone buzzed. Her supervisor's voice crackled through. Chen, pack your bags. You're heading to Vermont. October 13th is next week, and this year we're going to be watching. What could possibly cause an entire town to forget the same day year after year? The drive to Millbrook took Sarah through winding mountain roads that seemed to grow narrower with each passing mile. Ancient maple trees formed a canopy overhead, their October leaves creating a tunnel of gold and crimson that should have been beautiful but somehow felt ominous. She'd read the case files during the flight from Chicago, memorizing names and faces, trying to piece together a puzzle that defied logic. The town itself appeared unremarkable as she crested the final hill. A cluster of white colonial houses surrounded a modest downtown strip featuring the usual collection of businesses: Miller's Hardware, Rosie, S. Diner, the Millbrook Public Library, and a gas station that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1980s. Church spires punctuated the skyline, and American flags hung from front porches in that particular way that suggested genuine patriotism rather than political posturing. Sarah pulled into the parking lot of the Millbrook Inn, a 2-story bed and breakfast that served as the town's only lodging option. The proprietor, a woman in her 60s with graying hair and kind eyes, greeted her at the front desk. "You must be Detective Chen," she said, extending a hand. "I'm Margaret Whitmore. We don't get many visitors this close to October 13th. People avoid the town around this time?" Margaret's smile faltered slightly. "Word gets around. Reporters used to come. Government types, curious folks from the internet. But after a few years of nothing interesting happening, at least nothing they could remember, most stopped bothering." Sarah accepted the room key, noting how Margaret's fingers trembled slightly as she handed it over. "Mrs. Whitmore, can you tell me what you remember about October 13th, 2019? The older woman's face went blank for a moment. Then she shook her head slowly. "Same thing I remember about October 13th every year since I was a little girl, dear. Nothing at all. But I dreamed the most wonderful dreams that night. We all do." The revelation hit Sarah like ice water. "Since you were a little girl? The reports only go back 3 years. Margaret tilted her head, looking genuinely confused. 3 years? Oh my, no. The Forgotten Day has been happening in Millbrook for as long as anyone can remember. My grandmother used to tell stories about it, and her grandmother before that. Why would you think it only started recently?" Sarah's mind raced. The FBI files contained no mention of historical incidents. Either the federal investigation had been catastrophically incomplete, or someone had deliberately omitted crucial information. She opened her mouth to ask another question, but Margaret had already turned away, humming softly as she arranged papers behind the counter. "Mrs. Whitmore?" "Yes, dear. What do you dream about?" The humming stopped. Margaret's hand stilled on the papers, and when she looked up, her eyes held a distant, almost reverent expression. "We dream about going home." Chapter 2. Posted by you, Actual Detective Chen, to Our Mystery 4 days ago title, "I'm a real detective investigating the Millbrook, Vermont mass amnesia case, and I think the government is covering something up. This is going to sound insane, but I'm posting here because I don't know who else to trust. I'm a detective with the Chicago PD, currently on assignment with a federal task force investigating what the media calls the Millbrook mass amnesia incident. 3 days ago, I thought I was dealing with an unusual but explainable psychological phenomenon. Now I'm starting to believe we're looking at something far more sinister. For those who don't know the story, Millbrook, Vermont is a small town where every resident loses their memory for exactly 24 hours every October 13th. The FBI has documented this for the past 3 years, but here's what they didn't tell the public. It's been happening for generations, maybe centuries. I'm staying at the local inn, and the owner, Margaret Whitmore, casually mentioned that her grandmother and great-grandmother experienced the same thing. When I pressed for details, she showed me a collection of journals dating back to the 1800s, all documenting the same phenomenon. Every October 13th, the entire town goes to sleep and wakes up the next morning with no memory of the lost day. But that's not the weird part. The weird part is that I found a pattern in the historical records. Every few decades, someone in Millbrook disappears permanently on October 13th. Not during the amnesia event, before it. Always someone new to town, always someone who doesn't belong to one of the founding families. 1847, Thomas Brennan, a traveling merchant. 1873, Sarah Morrison, a teacher from Boston. 1901, James Hartwell, a photographer documenting rural life. 1934, Mary Chen, yes, same last name as me, probably a coincidence. A nurse. 1967, Robert Martinez, a government surveyor. The list goes on. I've found documentation for at least 20 disappearances spanning 150 years. All of them happening in the weeks leading up to October 13th. All of them involving outsiders who came to town asking questions about the forgotten day. Here's where it gets personal. I've been having dreams since I arrived. Not the wonderful dreams Margaret described, but nightmares. In them, I'm walking through Millbrook at night, but the town looks different, older. The buildings are made of dark stone instead of wood, and the streets are cobblestone. There are symbols carved into doorways and window frames, symbols that hurt to look at directly. In the dreams, I'm not alone. I can hear footsteps behind me, always matching my pace. When I turn around, there's nothing there, but I catch glimpses of movement in my peripheral vision. Shapes that don't quite look human, ducking between buildings or slipping through shadows. The dreams always end the same way. I'm standing in the town square looking up at something massive and dark that blots out the stars. I can't make out its shape clearly, but I know it's watching me. Then I hear a voice, not with my ears but directly in my mind, saying 3 words over and over: come. Home, now. I wake up drenched in sweat, and for a few moments I can remember everything clearly. But as the day goes on, the details fade until I'm left with only fragments and a lingering sense of dread. Today I visited the town records office, hoping to find more information about the disappearances. The clerk, a man named David Holloway, was helpful at first, pulling out boxes of old documents and newspaper clippings. But when I mentioned the missing persons cases, his entire demeanor changed. "Those people weren't missing," he said, his voice flat and emotionless. "They went home." "Home where?" I asked. David stared at me for a long moment, and I swear his pupils dilated until his eyes looked completely black. "Where they belong." I left the records office feeling like I was being watched. Every person I passed on the street seemed to track my movement with their eyes. Children playing on sidewalks stopped their games to stare. Even dogs turned their heads to follow me as I walked back to the inn. Margaret greeted me at the front door with her usual warm smile, but something felt off. She kept glancing over my shoulder as if expecting someone else to be there. "How was your day, dear?" she asked. "Productive," I lied. "I'm learning a lot about your town's history." Her smile never wavered, but her knuckles went white as she gripped the front desk. "That's wonderful! History is so important, don't you think? Understanding where we come from helps us appreciate where we're going." "Mrs. Whitmore, can you tell me about the people who've disappeared over the years?" The temperature in the lobby seemed to drop 10 degrees. Margaret's eyes went unfocused for a moment, then she blinked and looked at me with genuine confusion. "Disappeared? I'm sorry, I don't understand. No one disappears from Millbrook, dear. Why would they want to leave such a lovely place?" I showed her my notes, the names and dates I'd compiled from the historical records. She studied the list with a furrowed brow, then shook her head. "I'm afraid there's been some mistake. These people weren't from Millbrook. They were just visiting." "Visiting for how long?" Margaret's expression grew distant again, until it was time to go home. "That was 6 hours ago. I'm writing this from my room at the inn, and I can hear movement in the hallway outside my door. Footsteps that pace back and forth but never seem to reach the stairs at either end of the corridor. Sometimes I hear whispers too soft to make out individual words, but the tone is urgent and insistent. I'm starting to think the government isn't covering up the truth about Millbrook. They genuinely don't know what's happening here. The amnesia events might be a symptom of something much larger, something that's been hiding in this town for generations." October 13th is tomorrow night. I should leave. Every instinct I have as a detective and a human being is telling me to get in my car and drive back to Chicago. But I can't, not yet. I need to understand what's happening here, even if it means risking the same fate as the others who came before me. If anyone reading this has experience with similar phenomena, or if you know anything about symbols that cause physical pain to look at, please comment. I've tried researching them online, but every search result leads to pages that either won't load or display only static. I'll update tomorrow night if I can. Update 3 hours later, the footsteps in the hallway have stopped, but now I can hear something else. Music, coming from somewhere below my room. It sounds like a music box playing a lullaby, but the melody is wrong. The notes don't follow any pattern I recognize, and listening to it makes my teeth ache. I tried calling my supervisor in Chicago, but the call won't go through. Same with my partner, my parents, even the local sheriff's department. My phone shows full signal strength, but every call fails immediately. The music is getting louder. Update 2, 1 hour later, I went downstairs to investigate the music, but the lobby was empty and silent. Margaret was nowhere to be seen, and the front desk looked like it hadn't been used in years. There was dust on the counter and cobwebs in the corners, which is impossible because I checked in just yesterday. When I tried to leave through the front door, it wouldn't budge. The handle turns, but something on the other side is holding it shut. I can see through the windows that it's still daylight outside, but the shadows on the ground are moving in ways that don't match the wind patterns in the trees. I found a back exit through the kitchen, and that's when I saw them. People standing in their yards throughout the neighborhood, all facing toward the inn. They weren't moving, just standing perfectly still with their heads turned in my direction. Even the children, even the dogs. I'm back in my room now, and I can see more of them gathering outside. They're not threatening exactly, but they're waiting. Like they know something I don't. The music box melody is playing again, but now it's coming from inside the walls. Update 3:30 minutes ago, I found a journal hidden in the nightstand drawer. The handwriting is faded, but I can make out most of it. It belonged to James Hartwell, the photographer who disappeared in 1901. The final entry is dated October 12th. They showed me the truth tonight. What Millbrook really is, what it's always been. The town we see during the day is just a mask, eh? Pretty disguise worn over something much older and hungrier. They explained that I have a choice: forget what I've learned and leave peacefully, or stay and become part of the real Millbrook, the one that exists in the spaces between seconds and the shadows behind closed doors and the dreams that feel more real than waking life. I understand now why people disappear. They don't vanish. They see through the illusion and choose to stay. Because once you know the truth about this place, everything else feels hollow. The outside world becomes gray and meaningless compared to the vibrant darkness that lives at Millbrook's heart. Tomorrow is October 13th. Tomorrow, the mask comes off for everyone, but only the chosen few will remember. The rest will sleep and dream of home, never knowing they're already there. I've made my decision. The journal entry ends there. But there's something else written in the margin in different ink. Welcome home, Detective Chen. My hands are shaking as I type this. That message wasn't there when I first opened the journal. I'm certain of it. Outside my window, the people in the yards have started moving. Not walking exactly, but gliding across the grass without seeming to take steps. They're all converging on the inn, and they're all smiling. The sun is setting, and I can see shadows stretching from the trees that are way too long for this time of day. The shadows are reaching toward the building like fingers, and where they touch the walls, the white paint is fading to reveal dark stone underneath. I think I understand now what Margaret meant when she said the dreams are about going home. Millbrook isn't just a town that forgets one day each year. It's a place that exists partially outside normal reality, a threshold between our world and somewhere else. The amnesia isn't a side effect, it's a mercy. It's the town's way of protecting its residents from remembering what they truly are. But some people, the ones who dig too deep and ask too many questions, don't get the protection of forgetting. We get to see everything. The music box has stopped playing. In the silence, I can hear something moving inside the walls of the inn, something large enough to make the floorboards creak under its weight. It's circling my room, and with each pass, the footsteps sound closer to breaking through. I should be terrified, but instead I feel calm, peaceful even, like I'm finally about to learn the answer to a question I've been asking my whole life without realizing it. The shadows from outside have reached my window. As they touch the glass, I can see symbols appearing on the surface, the same ones from my dreams. They don't hurt to look at anymore. In fact, they're beautiful. There's someone knocking on my door now. Not Margaret's gentle tap, but a slow, rhythmic pounding that matches the beat of my heart. I'm going to open it. Update 4, timestamp corrupted. The knocking has stopped. When I opened the door, there was no one in the hallway, but I found an envelope on the floor with my name written on it in the same handwriting as the journal entry. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 5 rules written in red ink. Rule 1, never look directly at the real Millbrook. Rule 2, never speak the true names of the founding families. Rule 3, never count the people gathered in the town square on October 13th. Rule 4, never listen to the children's song after midnight. Rule 5, never try to leave once the sun sets on. The forgotten day below the rules in different handwriting someone had added, these are the only things that can hurt you now. Everything else is just coming home. I can hear children singing somewhere in the distance. The melody is hauntingly beautiful, and I find myself humming along even though I've never heard it before. My phone's clock has stopped working, but I can tell from the quality of light outside that it's getting close to midnight. The people in the yards are gone now, but I can see lights moving through the trees beyond the town. Lanterns, maybe, or candles. They're forming patterns, circles within circles, spirals that seem to pull my vision into their center. I think I'm ready to see what Millbrook really is. This will be my last update. Chapter 3, Audio Transcript, Millbrook Investigation File, MBK _audio _001. Dub recording date, October 13th, 2022. Duration, 47 minutes, 38 seconds. Quality, poor, significant static and distortion throughout. 015, static interference, voice distorted. Detective Chen. Testing. Okay, it's recording. This is Detective Sarah Chen, Chicago PD, currently assigned a federal task force investigating anomalous events in Millbrook, Vermont. It's approximately 11:30 p.m. on October 13th, 2022. I'm using a digital audio recorder to document what I'm observing since my phone and laptop have both stopped working properly. 034, background noise, wind, distant voices. The sun set about 3 hours ago, and that's when things started changing. The inn where I've been staying, it's not the same building anymore. The walls have turned to dark stone, and the layout has completely shifted. My room is on the 3rd floor now, even though the building only had 2 stories this morning. 058, metallic scraping sound. I can see the real Millbrook through my window now. The houses are made of black stone, with roofs that seem to absorb light rather than reflect it. The streets are cobblestone, just like in my dreams, but the pattern... God, the pattern hurts to look at. The stones are arranged in spirals that seem to move when you're not looking directly at them. 00123, Static surge, voice becomes unclear. The people are gathering in the town square. I can see them from up here, carrying lanterns that burn with cold blue flame. They're wearing the same clothes as always, jeans and sweaters and normal everyday things, but something about the way they move isn't human. Too fluid, too synchronized. 0145. Sound of children singing. Very faint wait. I can hear singing. Children's voices coming from... I think it's coming from beneath the building, like there's a basement level I didn't know about. The melody is beautiful, but it makes my chest feel tight. I should probably follow Rule 4 from that list and not listen to it, but 00210, singing becomes louder, clearer. No, I need to hear this. It's important. The words aren't in English, but somehow I understand them. Round and round the old town goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. But the children all remember, every cold October member, 00228. Static interference increases, the singing is getting closer. I think they're moving up through the building, or floor by floor. I can hear footsteps on the stairs, but they're wet, like bare feet on stone, but with a squelching sound that 00245, loud banging noise, something just hit my door hard. But when I look through the peephole, the hallway is empty. Just that impossible corridor that stretches further than the building should allow, with doors on both sides that definitely weren't there yesterday. 00258. Voice becomes whisper. I'm going to open one of the other doors. I know I shouldn't, but I have to understand what this place really is. The federal files were wrong about everything. This isn't mass amnesia, it's mass transformation. Every year on October 13th, Millbrook shows its true face, and the people who live here get to remember who they really are. 00320, door creaking open the room across the hall. It's not a room, it's a window into somewhere else. I can see a vast space filled with structures that don't follow any architectural rules I know. Buildings that twist impossibly upward, connected by bridges that seem to exist in more dimensions than our geometry allows. 00342, sound of breathing, not the detectives. There are figures moving through that space. Tall, thin shapes that might have been human once but have been stretched and changed into something else. Beautiful and terrible at the same time. And they're looking back at me through this window door, and their eyes, 0045, static. Spike. Transmission briefly cuts out. 00412, recording resumes, voice shaking, their eyes are full of stars. Literal stars burning in the darkness where pupils should be. And when they see me looking, they start moving toward the window, not walking, flowing like smoke given form. 00430, sound of glass breaking, the window just shattered, but instead of falling, the pieces are floating upward like reverse rain, and the figures are coming through, stepping from their impossible realm into this hallway. 00445, multiple voices speaking in unison. Distant, they're speaking now, all of them together. In that same language the children were singing, "Welcome home, wanderer. Welcome to the heart of things. Welcome to the place between sleep and waking, between then and now, between who you were and who you're meant to become." 0058, detective's voice, calmer now, I understand now. Margaret was right about the dreams. We do dream of going home. But home isn't a place, it's a state of being. A return to something older and more fundamental than the masks we wear in daylight. 00525, sound of papers rustling. I'm looking at my case files, but the text is changing as I watch. The words are rearranging themselves, telling a different story. Not about disappearances, but about people who chose to stop pretending, who decided to embrace what Millbrook was offering instead of clinging to the illusion of the outside world. 0548, children singing returns, much closer. The children are in the hallway now. I can see them through the crack under my door. Bare feet, but their shadows are wrong. Too many limbs, too many angles. They're still singing that lullaby, but now I can hear the full verse. Round and round the old town goes. Where it stops, nobody knows but the children. All remember, every cold October member. Sleep and dream of coming home, never again to walk alone. For the ones who choose to stay, find their truth on the forgotten day. 00620, voice becoming dreamy, it's beautiful. The song, the figures in the hallway, the impossible architecture visible through the shattered window door. This is what the town has been trying to show people for generations, not something to fear, but something to embrace.
00638, sound of door opening. I'm opening my door now.
The children are waiting for me, and they're holding out their hands. Their faces are kind, even if they're not entirely human anymore. Behind them, the star-eyed figures stand in graceful poses, patient and welcoming. 00658, multiple voices including children. Come home, Detective Chen. Come home to Millbrook. Come home to yourself. 00715, Detective's voice, peaceful. Yes, I'm ready. I've been ready my whole life, I think. Always searching for something I couldn't name. Always feeling like I didn't quite belong in the world I knew. But this is where I belong. 00735, footsteps fading. I'm walking with them now, down the impossible hallway toward whatever waits at the end. The walls are covered with symbols that no longer hurt to look at. They're instructions, I realize. A guide for those who are ready to leave their old selves behind. 0758, recording becomes very faint. We're going downstairs now, deeper into the building, deeper into Millbrook's true heart. The air tastes different here, older, richer, full of possibilities that don't exist in the surface world.
0820, sound of large doors opening. We've reached the bottom.
There's a vast chamber here, bigger than the building should contain. The walls are lined with alcoves, and in each one stands a figure that might have been human once. They're beautiful in their transformation, peaceful in their eternal watch over the town. 00845, whispered, there's an empty alcove, waiting for me. I can see it, carved with symbols that spell my name in that ancient language I somehow know how to read.
This is my place. This is where I've always been meant to stand.
0095, sound of transformation, difficult to describe. The change is starting. I can feel my body becoming something more, something better suited to this place between worlds. It doesn't hurt. It's like finally taking off clothes that never fit properly. 0928, voice changing, becoming multi-layered. I can see everything now. The truth about Millbrook, about the families who founded it, about the purpose it serves. This town is a bridge, a crossing point between our world and the realm where thoughts become reality, where dreams take physical form. 00950, multiple voices harmonizing. The founding families weren't settlers, they were guardians, chosen to maintain this sacred threshold. Every year, on October 13th, the barrier between worlds grows thin, and the town shows its true nature to those who are ready to see. 01015, sound quality degrading rapidly. Most people aren't ready. They get the mercy of forgetting, of waking up the next morning with only pleasant dreams to remember. But some of us are meant to cross over completely. 01035, recording becoming increasingly distorted.
I'm taking my place now in the alcove.
I can feel the stone growing around me, but it's not imprisonment, it's embrace. I'm becoming part of Millbrook's eternal vigil, part of the network of consciousness that keeps the crossing safe and secret. 01058, barely audible if anyone finds this recording. Understand, we're not missing, we're not dead, we're home, we're finally truly home. 01120, sound of stone ceiling. The ones who come after me will have the same choice. Forget and leave or remember and stay. There's no shame in either path. The town will wait. The town is patient. 01145, complete silence for 30 seconds. 01215, new voice, female. Elderly Margaret here. Found this little recording device in the inn this morning, October 14th. Strange thing is, we've never had a Detective Chen staying with us.
The guest registry shows the room was empty all week.
But I had the most wonderful dreams last night about a new friend joining our community. 01235, sound of device being turned off end. Of recording journal entry found in Millbrook Public Library, handwritten in margins of a history. Of Vermont Township's date. Unknown paper appears aged, but writing seems recent. They think we forget, but forgetting and not remembering are different things. We don't lose October 13th. We experience it so fully that normal human memory can't contain it. It overflows, spills out of the neat containers our minds use to organize experience, but pieces remain, fragments that surface in dreams, in moments of quiet contemplation, in the brief seconds between sleeping and waking. We remember the feeling of coming home. We remember the peace of letting go of pretense. We remember the joy of finally seeing ourselves clearly. The outsiders who come to investigate our town think they're uncovering a mystery, but they're actually being offered a gift, the chance to stop living a half-life in a world that never quite fit, the chance to become something more authentic, more real than anything they've ever been. Some accept the gift. Others flee back to their gray little existences, carrying nothing but manufactured memories of a quaint Vermont town where nothing unusual ever happens. Both choices are valid. Both are honored. But for those of us who were born here, who grew up knowing there was more to existence than what shows on the surface, October 13th is Christmas and Easter and every birthday rolled into one. It's the day we get to stop pretending to be merely human. We are the bridge keepers. We are the threshold guardians. We are the ones who ensure that the crossing between worlds remains secret and safe. And we are patient. We have all the time in the world to wait for the next wanderer who might choose to stay. The children's song has more verses than the investigators ever hear. The complete version tells the whole story, passed down through generations of families who understand their true purpose, round and round. The old town goes, where it stops, nobody knows, but the children all remember, every cold October member. Sleep and dream of coming home, never again to walk alone. For the ones who choose to stay, find their truth on the forgotten day. Stone and star and shadow deep, promises that we must keep, guard the door and tend the flame, call the wanderers by name. Some will come, and some will go, this is all we need to know. Love waits patient, love waits true. Love transforms me, love transforms you. The melody carries power. It opens minds to possibilities beyond the narrow confines of ordinary reality. It prepares the soul for transformation, for the beautiful dissolution of self into something larger and more meaningful. Margaret Whitmore is not my real name. None of us use our real names during the daylight hours. They're too powerful, too connected to our true nature to speak casually. My real name, the one carved in ancient symbols above my alcove in the chamber beneath the inn, translates roughly to she who welcomes the lost. It's been my privilege to serve in that role for more than a century, appearing to age at the expected rate while remaining fundamentally unchanged. Each October 13th renews me, reminds me of my purpose, reconnects me to the vast network of consciousness that spans both worlds. Detective Chen was special. Most investigators come with skeptical minds and closed hearts, making it easy to deflect their questions and send them away with false memories. But she arrived already dreaming of home, already half transformed by her own longing for truth. I could see it in her eyes from the moment she walked into the inn, the hunger for something real. Something that matched the grandeur she sensed lurking beneath the surface of everyday experience. She was ready to see Millbrook's true face, ready to accept the invitation that the town extends to every searching soul. Her transformation was beautiful to witness. The fear dissolved so quickly once she understood what was being offered. The relief in her voice as she finally allowed herself to stop fighting against her deepest nature was profound. She joins a distinguished company of bridge keepers now. Artists and writers and scientists and philosophers, all drawn to Millbrook by the same instinct that calls migratory birds south for winter. The knowing, bone-deep certainty that home is not just a place but a state of being. The alcoves beneath the inn hold teachers and healers, inventors and explorers, everyone who ever looked at the world and wondered, is this all there is? Everyone who ever felt the pull of something greater calling them forward. They are not prisoners or victims. They are volunteers in the most beautiful service imaginable, keeping the way open for others who might need to cross, maintaining the delicate balance that allows two worlds to touch without destroying each other. October 14th dawns bright and clear, and the town returns to its daytime mask. The residents wake with no conscious memory of their true nature, but their dreams are full of warmth and belonging. The tourists who sometimes visit see only a charming New England village with friendly locals and reasonable prices. But we remember. In the quiet spaces between thoughts, In the rhythm of daily routines that carry deeper meaning than they appear to hold, we remember who we are and why we're here. The crossing is safe for another year. The threshold is maintained. The bridge between worlds stands strong, and we wait, patient as stone, for the next lost soul who might be ready to come home. Video transcript. Millbrook investigation file, mbk_video_002.mp4 timestamp. Corrupted. Appears to show October 32nd, 2022 video quality, severe distortion, frequent static bursts.